I found out I was adopted. When my birth brother knocked on my door with a gun, I don't really know how to start this. My hands are shaking even typing this out. But maybe writing it down will help me process what the hell just happened. I, 27M, always thought my life was normal. Boring, even. I grew up in a small town with 2 loving parents, a dog, the occasional family vacation. No big tragedies, no missing puzzle pieces, nothing that made me question who I was. Until last week. It was a Thursday night. Late. I'd just finished a long shift and was dozing on the couch with Netflix droning in the background. Around midnight, I heard this pounding on my apartment door. Not a neighbor's casual knock. Not the polite tap of someone dropping off a package. This was heavy. Urgent. The kind of knock that makes your stomach drop. At first, I froze. Then, stupidly, I got up and opened the door without even checking the peephole. I know. Dumb. And that's when I saw him. A man. Maybe early 30s. Messy dark hair, tired eyes. He looked familiar. Like I'd seen him before but couldn't place where. And in his hand? A gun. I swear my brain couldn't process it fast enough. My first instinct was to slam the door shut, but before I could, he spoke. "Don't scream," he said, his voice low but steady. "I'm not here to hurt you." Which is exactly what someone with a gun would say, right? I tried to push the door closed, but he stepped forward, just enough that I couldn't. The barrel never lifted, it was pointed at the ground but it was still there. "You don't even know who you are," he said. His eyes locked on mine. "They never told you." My heart was hammering so hard I thought I'd black out. "Get out," I stammered. "I'm calling the police," and that's when he shouted it, loud enough that my neighbor upstairs thumped on the floor. "I'm your brother." I froze. "My brother? You're my real brother," he said again, softer this time. "And they lied to both of us." That was enough for my survival instinct to finally kick in. I shoved the door hard, caught him off balance, and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely dial 911. By the time the cops showed up, he was gone. No trace. No footprints in the snow, no car seen leaving the lot, nothing. The officers took my statement, asked if I had enemies, if anyone might be trying to scare me. I said no. They looked at me like maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And the worst part? A small, buried part of me believed him. I barely slept that night. My mind kept replaying his face. The way he looked at me like he knew me. Like we weren't strangers. The next morning, I called my mom. I tried to keep my voice casual, but she noticed immediately something was wrong. I asked her straight out, "Am I adopted?" There was this pause. A long one. Long enough to confirm everything before she even spoke. Her voice shook when she finally answered. "Why would you ask something like that?" That was all I needed. She didn't say no. She didn't laugh it off. She didn't reassure me. I pushed harder. She got defensive. My dad jumped on the line a few minutes later, demanding to know what was going on. They both insisted I was being paranoid, that I shouldn't let strangers get in my head. But here's the thing, I never told them someone had shown up. I never mentioned a knock at the door. So how did they know? I hung up on them and sat there staring at the wall for hours. I feel like my entire life has been ripped apart in the span of a day. If I'm adopted, then who am I, really? Why keep it a secret? And why would my supposed real brother show up after all these years armed, desperate, and furious? I can't stop hearing his words. "They never told you." If what he said is true, then my parents have been lying to me for 27 years. And if they lied about that, what else have they lied about? I don't know what to do. I don't know who to trust. All I know is, last week, I was just a guy with a normal life. Now, I'm the guy who opened a door and found his whole world was built on a lie. And maybe, just maybe, a brother I never knew existed is out there, waiting for me to figure it out. I didn't plan on posting again so soon, but the last 48 hours have flipped my life upside down. I can't keep this bottled up. Maybe putting it here will keep me grounded. After that phone call with my parents, I couldn't sit still. I went over every memory I had of my childhood, looking for clues I'd missed. And the more I thought about it, the more things started to not add up. When I was a kid, people used to say I didn't look like my parents. I thought it was just one of those harmless comments adults make. "Oh, you must take after your great uncle." Stuff like that. But now, thinking back, I realize nobody in my extended family looks like me. Not one cousin, aunt, or grandparent. I always brushed it off, but maybe deep down I knew something didn't fit. And then there were the family photo albums. Or, lack of them. We had plenty of photos once I turned 3. Birthday parties, first day of school, Christmas mornings. But almost nothing before that. Just a handful of Polaroids, all from around the same month, all clearly staged. When I asked my mom about it growing up, she used to say our old house had water damage and most baby pictures were ruined. I never questioned it. Now it feels like a cover story. Friday night, I drove to my parents' house. It's about 40 minutes away, but the whole drive felt like I was heading toward a cliff. They were sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, like they'd been waiting for me. My mom looked like she'd been crying. My dad's face was hard, tight, the way it gets when he's hiding anger. I didn't waste time. Am I adopted? I asked. Silence. Then my dad said, "You're our son. That's all that matters." Which isn't a denial. My mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Just tell me the truth." Finally, she broke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes. You're adopted." I felt like the air got sucked out of the room. Even though I'd already suspected it, hearing the words made it real. I asked why they lied, why they kept this from me my whole life. Her answer didn't make sense. She said, "We wanted to protect you. To give you a normal life." Protect me from what? That's when my dad snapped. He slammed his hand on the table so hard the glasses rattled. "Drop this. The past doesn't matter. We're your parents. End of story. End of story." I couldn't stop shaking my head. A man showed up at my apartment. He said he's my brother. Their faces went white. Both of them. Like I just announced a ghost walked through the door. "How did he find you?" my mom whispered. I hadn't even told them it happened at my apartment. Just that it happened. But somehow they knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I kept replaying the look on their faces. The fear. So Saturday morning, I drove back over while they were out running errands. I still have a key. I went into the attic. There's this old cedar chest they never let me dig through when I was younger. My dad always said it was just junk. It wasn't junk. Inside were folders. Papers. A few photographs. I found what looked like an adoption certificate, but it wasn't official. The format was wrong. It didn't look like the state-issued ones I've seen online. Parts of it were handwritten. Sloppy. And where my birth parents' names should have been, the lines were thickly blacked out with marker. You could still see the indent of letters underneath, but the ink made it impossible to read. There was also a photo. Old, creased. 2 kids standing in front of a small, run-down house. One of them was me. The other was the man who showed up at my apartment. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped it. I stuffed the papers back and left, but I kept the photo. That night, I stared at it for hours. It was proof. Not just that I was adopted, but that the man with the gun really was my brother. I wanted more answers, so I did something maybe a little reckless. I drove back to my parents' neighborhood and went door to door, asking their longtime neighbors if they remembered anything from when I was little. Most people just smiled and said I'd always been such a sweet boy. But one woman, Mrs. Kendrick, who's known my parents forever, said something that made my blood run cold. "I remember when they brought you home," she said. "Such a sweet little thing, and so quiet. Your mama said you were a miracle. A blessing, after everything that happened." "After what happened?" I asked. Her smile faltered. She got this pinched look, like she'd said too much. "Oh, I shouldn't be gossiping. You'll have to ask your parents." Then she shut the door. I don't know what to do next. I feel like I'm unraveling a sweater thread by thread, and at the end, there's going to be nothing left. The question is, what are they so afraid of me learning? And why did my brother show up armed, desperate, and angry? I'm not sure if I should try to find him, or if that's exactly what someone doesn't want me to do. All I know is, the life I thought I had is gone. And I don't think the truth waiting for me is going to be something I want to hear. I don't know how many of you will even believe this anymore. Honestly, if I were reading it, I'd probably call BS. But this is my life now. And it's spiraling into something I don't even recognize. After finding the photo and the fake adoption papers, I couldn't sit still. Every sound outside my apartment made me jump. Every car that slowed near my building made me think it was him, my brother, coming back. I didn't have to wait long. It was Sunday night. Just after midnight again. I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, when I heard it. The knock. This time, I didn't rush to open the door. I stood there in the dark, holding a baseball bat I dug out of my closet, debating whether to call the cops again. Then a voice came through the door. Low. Calm. "I'm not here to hurt you." The same words as before. I tightened my grip on the bat. "You already said that." A pause. Then, "You kept the photo, didn't you?" My stomach dropped. He knew. Somehow, he knew I'd found it. I don't know what came over me, but I unlocked the door. This time, though, I kept the chain lashed. Just a crack. Enough to see him. He looked worse than before. Exhausted. Hollow-eyed. His clothes were the same, just dirtier. And yes, he still had the gun, tucked into his waistband. But he didn't reach for it. We stared at each other for what felt like forever. Finally, I whispered, "Who are you?" He gave a bitter smile. "I told you. I'm your brother." "What's your name?" "Daniel." The name hit me like a punch. I don't know why. Maybe because it sounded so normal, so human, compared to the chaos he brought into my life. I asked him what he wanted. Why he was here. Why the gun? And that's when he told me everything. According to Daniel, we were both born into a family that never should have existed. Our birth parents were addicts, criminals, the kind of people who lived on the edge of society. By the time I was 2 and he was 6, things had gotten bad, so bad that Child Protective Services was supposed to intervene. But before that could happen, something else did. He says our parents were killed. Murdered. The details were fuzzy, but the way he told it, we were both there when it happened. He remembers hiding in a closet, holding me, listening to the shouting and the gunshots. He says someone took me away that night. That he woke up the next morning in foster care, alone. And for 25 years, he thought I was dead. Until recently. When he started digging. And what he found, according to him, was that I hadn't died. I'd been taken. Placed with my parents. But not through the state. Not legally. Through someone else. That's why the papers don't look right. Why my parents panicked when I mentioned him. Because they weren't just hiding my adoption. They were hiding how it happened. I wanted to believe him. God, I did believe him, at least about parts of it. The photo in the attic proved he wasn't lying about knowing me. But then he leaned closer and said something that chilled me to the bone. They'll never tell you the truth. They can't. So you have to decide, little brother. Are you with me, or with them? I asked him what he meant. He tapped the gun on his hip. Some debts don't get paid with words. That's when I slammed the door shut and slid the chain back into place. My heart was racing so fast I thought I'd collapse. I heard him chuckle softly through the wood. You'll see, he said. You'll remember. Then his footsteps faded down the hall. I barely slept. Every creak of the building made me think he was back. Every nightmare ended with that voice, you'll remember. The next morning, I called my parents. I didn't tell them about Daniel showing up again, just pressed harder for answers about my adoption. My dad hung up on me. My mom texted later, begging me to stop digging. Stop digging. Like this was a grave. I don't know who to believe. My parents are liars. Daniel is dangerous. And I'm caught in the middle of something that feels bigger than me, older than me. The worst part? When he said I'd remember, a part of me does. I keep having flashes. A smell, sharp and metallic. A woman screaming. My hands pressed over my ears while someone pulled me into the dark. I thought they were just dreams. Now I'm not so sure. I wasn't going to write this. Honestly, I thought if I just ignored it, maybe all of it would go away. But ignoring it doesn't make the nightmares stop. It doesn't make the phone calls stop either. So here it is. The ending. After Daniel left, I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't lying. Maybe not about everything, but enough. I needed something concrete, something outside of his word or my parents' lies. So I started with the photo. The rundown house in the background looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. With a little Googling and some help from property records, I found it. A condemned house in a small town about 2 hours from where I grew up. The county clerk's office had old newspapers archived. I went through microfilm reels like some obsessed detective in a movie. Hours passed before I found it. A headline, yellowed with H, couple found dead in apparent drug-related shooting. The photo was grainy, but unmistakable. The house was the same as in my picture. The victims' names were listed, too. And there it was. My last name. My real last name. Daniel hadn't lied. I requested the police report through public records. Most of it was redacted, but the gist was clear. 2 victims, both shot in their home. No suspects ever charged. And under dependents, 2 children were listed. Daniel, age 6. And me. Age 2. But here's the part that broke me. Under custody transfer, Daniel was placed into the foster system. Me. It just said, unknown. I was erased. I drove straight to my parents' house, shaking so hard I nearly crashed twice. They tried to shut the door when they saw my face, but I shoved it open. I threw the newspaper and the report on the table. You knew, I said. All these years, you knew who I was. What happened to me? You didn't just adopt me. You stole me. My mom started crying, muttering prayers under her breath. My dad just sat there, stone-faced, jaw-clenched. Finally, he said, we saved you. Saved me. I asked him what he meant. He leaned forward, his voice low, like he was telling me some sacred truth. Your real parents weren't murdered in some drug deal gone wrong. They were killed because of what they did. They owed people. Dangerous people. And we couldn't let you be swallowed up by that life. I asked him how they even knew about me. His silence was the answer. They hadn't stumbled across me. They hadn't been saviors. They had been involved somehow. They were tied to that night. And instead of calling CPS, instead of handing me over, they claimed me as their own. That night, Daniel called me. I don't even know how he got my number. His voice was raw, almost broken. You saw it, didn't you? The reports. The names. I told him I had. He didn't sound relieved. He sounded furious. Then you know what they did. They're not your parents. They're thieves. Murderers. They took you from me. I tried to calm him down, told him we needed proof, told him I needed time to process. But he wouldn't listen. They don't deserve to breathe, he said. And if you won't help me, then stay out of my way. Then he hung up. For the next 2 days, I lived in constant panic. I called my parents, begged them to leave town, to get somewhere safe. My dad refused. We're not running from him, he said. But I could hear the fear in his voice, no matter how much he tried to hide it. Every car that drove past their house made me tense. Every shadow looked like Daniel. And then, last night, it happened. I don't even know if I should be writing this, but it's burned into my head. I can't get it out. I was at my parents' house, pacing the living room, when the knock came. Hard. Urgent. My dad grabbed the shotgun he keeps by the door. My mom was sobbing, begging us to call the cops. But before we could, the door splintered open. Daniel. Gun raised. Eyes wild. What happened next was chaos. Shouting. My dad aiming his shotgun. My mom screaming. And Daniel yelling, "You stole him from me." I don't remember pulling the trigger. I don't remember deciding. But when the smoke cleared, it was me holding my dad's shotgun. Daniel was on the floor. Bleeding. Dying. The police ruled it self-defense. An armed intruder, a family protecting themselves. That's the official story. But here's the truth, the one that will haunt me forever. Daniel wasn't lying. My parents did steal me. They covered up everything. And when Daniel came to make it right, I killed him. My brother. The only person who still remembered where I really came from. Now it's just me. And them. And the lie we'll all keep pretending is the truth. But sometimes, late at night, I think about Daniel's last words. You'll remember. And I do. The screaming. The gunshots. The blood on the floor. The night my real parents died. And the hands that carried me away. Hence I now know. Hence I still call mom and dad.